Welcome back into Buccaneers Total Access, brought to you by Advent Health. First half of the show, we had head coach Todd Bowles, and now I am so excited to be joined by special teams coordinator Thomas McGaughey. T-Mac, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And big win. I mean, that was, at this point in time of the year, everyone's a big one, but to know that now you're sitting atop the NFC South, that's just got to make going into work the next day that much more exciting to know you guys are in the point of controlling your own destiny.
Yeah, Victory Monday is always a good thing. It's the most important win because it's the next one. So it was really fun to come off the field yesterday with a W. Yeah,
absolutely. And I know that these last few games, it's incredible that, there was the bit of the slump, then hit the bye week, and then now y'all have come out of that doing everything you've needed to do. The mentality has been that you guys have been chasing, right? You've been behind someone, and it was the knowing that every single game was essentially the playoffs. Now you guys are kind of the ones that are going to be chased because you're at the top. How does that change the mentality, or does it, of what you communicate to your players?
I don't think it changed our mentality at all. This is, it's a 4-game season right now. So really each week when you go out, your pressing thing is to get another W, and you don't ever want to put your destiny in somebody else's hands. So if you can control your own destiny and do the things that you need to do as a team to get to where you want to be, that's what you want to do.
So looking back at this game, tell me what stands out to you about all of your guys, whether it's the different kick and punt coverage units, it's your specialists. What stands out about your performance for the game?
We always focus on our focus is always about getting better every week. And, we had some new pieces. We had a couple of injuries that happened on Friday. And it's always just a juggling of personnel. So, not having J.J. Russell and not having Josh Hayes, making those last-minute adjustments and having some new guys in there that had to play, and they stepped in and did a good job. Having Jack Browning coming in, playing his first game ever in Week 14. It was a good experience for those young guys being able to step up and have responsibility and play a part in our win.
And then I know, Chase has been asked to step up in some big ways lately, for sure. Those field goals in crunch time versus the Panthers. Tell me what that was like to watch him accomplish, of the sending them to overtime, winning the game, and what that's like when it comes down to your kicker.
That's Chase being Chase. It really is. That's why we re-signed him last year, and he steps up in big-time areas where he needs to make big-time plays, and that's what big-time players do. So it was fun just to see him kind of go through his process and be able to make those kicks.
And then I know that he has just been so consistent, so reliable in so many different ways. I mean, he made a franchise record-setting 30 consecutive regular season field goals over almost exactly a calendar year, from last October to this October. Didn't miss a field goal in the regular season. It's just incredible to hear those kind of numbers for a guy. And what is it about him that provides that kind of consistency, regularity, reliability in his game in particular?
You're going to laugh when I tell you this, but it's his consistency. It's what he does every day, his process and how he handles himself, his daily routine, his process during the week, his routine during the week. He does the exact same thing every day. Mm-hmm. You can set your watch by it. And he has a process that works for him. He has a routine that works for him. And he sticks with it, and he trusts it, and he goes through it every single day. It was from the first day I walked in here in February. We went out in OTAs. He was the same way. He would come out. The days he would kick, he was going to kick 6 field goals. Not 5, not 7. It was 6. He would warm up, he'd kick his 6, and that was it. And he was very consistent and very methodical in what he's doing, and he's very intentional about what he tries to do as far as his process is concerned. So it's really fun to watch a guy, because I've, prior to me getting here, I've followed his career, him being a young kicker coming out of Illinois and just kind of bouncing around the league, and you see how he's grown, and his maturation process has been amazing. And now just seeing the results of it now, it's incredible.
That's amazing. We're talking to special teams coordinator Thomas McGaughey. So he's now one shy of the franchise record number of 50-plus field goals made. He was the leader already in percentage made from 50-plus, but then that one miss versus the Panthers dropped him to second, so that just means he's just one away from getting right back up there. But it's one thing to be consistent and reliable in 30, 35, 40 even, but from 50 and even 55 to feel like when he runs out there, I'm like, oh, he's got this. That's pretty wild to feel that way. So Why is he so good, not only in the shorts, because a lot of times it feels like kickers, you get one or the other, that either they've got the big leg or they're reliable.
Right.
For him to have both, why is that, and what does that mean for you guys?
Well, again, I think it goes back to that routine thing that we're talking about. And then also, too, when you've gone through some of the things that he's gone through over his career and then getting to this place where you have that emotional maturity, and when you go out and you understand what's at stake, what your job is, what I need to do, and how I need to do it, there's a calmness there. And you've had success over the years. And all you do is go out, you take your steps, you go through your process. When that ball hits the ground, you do what you do, you know. And that's, I think, more than anything, it's a confidence through time and just being consistent over and over and over again. And then having confidence is created through success.
Right.
So he's had success doing it. So now he goes out there, he knows he can do it. So as soon as he goes out there, he just lets his muscle memory kick in.
And I've seen across the league where it's starting to feel like kickers are getting closer to now 60-yarders. It just slowly feels like we're just inching, where things that you would have never tried before.
Yeah.
Potentially now you're going to. What do you think is the reason behind this, and then also the direction of what this means for special teams units, offenses, the game overall?
Yeah, it's just the guys are just getting bigger, stronger, and faster. I mean, it's just that's the evolution of, you know, it's no different than offense and defense. It's the same thing. You get a 6'4", 340-pound defensive tackle that runs 4.9.
Yeah.
And there, you know, it used to be like maybe there was like one freak like that. There's 5 of them now. You know, so it's like each position you see it, you know, big, strong, fast, and the kickers and punters are no different. Those guys are still evolving just like every other position. So these guys are getting bigger, stronger, and faster, and you have the battery of snapper, holder, and these guys are working together more and more. And so the more you see that trio working together, then all of a sudden they have more confidence. Guy has a strong leg, coach is willing to take a chance.
Yep.
Then you get that.
Yeah. And, you know, I was thinking about just what it means, the distance in general, for whether it's Chase or anybody, of what it means to the offense. I thought about that game for the Carolina one, of knowing that it was down to needing those every little yard to get into field goal range. Well, it's because his range was so long that we even got to that place. So what have you seen about the way it's influenced, you know, Liam and everyone kind of making these calls in games, feeling as confident as they feel in Chase, and what it means to what the offense has to do?
Yeah, I mean, it's anytime you got a weapon like Chase, you know, once you get down, you know, you cross the 40, you know, you're in field goal range for the most part. It's a big difference. You know, it's a difference in how you call plays, just knowing that, okay, if we don't get this, we're going to score points. So we can, you know, obviously they want to push the ball as far down the field as you can, trying to score a touchdown. But if you know you're in that fringe area, you know, if potentially, okay, if we're in a 3rd and long situation, we got to just eke in the field goal range. We know we at least got a field goal, and then playing that field position range. Then as you get towards the back end of the season, where it gets a little cooler, and you know you might have to go in the playoffs, you got to go somewhere to where the ball's not going to fly as far. You know, every little bit counts. So it's one of those deals where it's a comfort just to know that you have a guy that can knock it through from a distance.
Absolutely.
Across
And
the
then
50.
you've had 3 different punters this season. That's a lot for a special teams coordinator to be working with, and I'm sure that's thrown a lot of wrenches into things. Take me through some of those, you know, early things for Camarda and Gill, of what wasn't working, what made you kind of decide to make some of the switches, and what you've overall been wanting from a punter this year, that especially a lot of us at home, we don't know. Are they being asked to directional? Are they being asked to kick it as far as they can, that we don't always understand kind of what you guys are hoping for from a punter? So take us through what that's been like for all the 3 different guys in those decisions.
Yeah, well, and I'll just talk about them collectively. Just more than anything, just consistency. We're a directional punting team, and, you know, we're looking for a hang to distance when the hang matches the distance. So say if the ball goes 45 yards, we want at least 4.5 to 4.3, 4.6 hang time. If it goes 48 yards, we want, you know, 4.8, 4.9 hang time.
Yep.
We try and stay away from the 65-yard 4.5 ball that's kicked right down the middle of the field. That's a dangerous ball, especially with these returners that you go against. So that's more of that process, just trying to be consistent, just making sure if the ball's supposed to go right, it goes right. If the ball's supposed to go left, it goes left. And the coverage is coordinated to go with the direction of the punt. So if the ball's being supposed to be punted right and the coverage is going left, that could be a real issue. And, we're just trying to make sure we get all of those things lined up and be consistent with that. And, Jack did a decent job yesterday. It was, first time this kid's ever been out in front of 75,000 people in week 14, didn't have any preseason experience in the game. So his first actual game to play in the NFL was yesterday.
Jeez.
So, and he's going to get better. Like, we've seen him punt really well in practice, and his upside is tremendous. So he just needs to, kind of calm himself down a little bit, take a breath, and then and just enjoy the process, because he's learning. He's learning on the run, and he's literally thrown in the fire. So he'll be fine.
Yeah, and I know that, as you mentioned, those guys all working together. That's even another element, I think, of how impressive Chase has been, that he's had all these different holders.
Absolutely.
How have you guys been able to keep that okay for him, and explain even just the challenges of that?
Again, like we talked about earlier, just emotional maturity. Like, understanding it is what it is. There's not a whole lot you can do about it, and you make the best out of what you got. You know what I mean? Like, it's, I used to use this analogy, kind of like gumbo makers. That's like, whatever we got, whatever you got in the refrigerator, we're going to put it in a gumbo and we're going to make it.
Boy, if that isn't special teams, I don't know what is.
And it got to taste good. You know, sometimes you get chicken, you get sausage, you get shrimp. Sometimes it's just roux and rice. So, but they expect it to be good. So that's just the reality of it. You got to be able to midstream adjust. And whatever happens, you got to be able to deal with it. Because if you can't midstream adjust, you're gonna drown. So.
And how hard is that holder job? To me, I've always thought that feels like the worst thing to have to do. That seems miserable, and like so much pressure, and so much can go wrong.
Yeah, it's probably one of the most underrated jobs in the National Football League. All you got to do is get anybody back there and try and do it, and it's not an easy job. So. And it's a thankless job. It's like snapping. It's like you never really hear anything about the long snapper until something bad happens. So those two jobs are really hard. But Jack is doing a good job. And again, for Chase, being able to make those adjustments with the different holders is a testament to him. And just being able, because you got to realize each guy, he has to coach up and let them know, hey, look, I like the ball to be held this way. Okay, make sure you don't have too much of your hand on the ball. Lift your finger. I want it here. This is the tilt. All right, with this wind, I like it tilted this way. With this wind, it's a lot of details that people have no idea about, and they think you say, oh, okay, you just catch the ball and put it down. It's not that easy. It's not that easy. A lot of details that go into it.
That's crazy. We're going to take a quick break here on Buccaneers Total Access, talking to Special Teams Coordinator Thomas McGaughey, brought to you by Advent Health. This is Buccaneers Radio. Welcome back into Buccaneers Total Access, brought to you by Advent Health. We're talking to Special Teams Coordinator Thomas McGaughey. Right before the break, we were talking about how the other thankless job is that of long snapper. So let's give Evan Deckers his due here and talk about him for a bit. What are the things that you really like about him, and also just what you want out of and expect out of a long snapper?
Deck has done a great job. He is a really good young prospect who has a bright future. He's very, very coachable. He's very eager, and he has a real desire to be great. He really does. He comes in every day. He's very consistent, and he's trying to figure out his routine for who he is as a specialist. And I always, you'll hear me talk about routine with these guys, because it's something that the ones that play double digits in this league all have a really good routine, as far as their weekly routine, how they prepare, because that's what it's all about. But he's done an excellent job of, just coming in and trying to figure out what's going to make him better today. And I try and make sure that he understands that, and that's our primary focus. Like, how can we get better today?
Yeah.
And he's done a good job. He had the hamstring, and he's out for a little bit, but now he's back, and he's kind of getting his feet wet again. And it was almost like starting over again, because he hasn't played in the game up until early this year, and then you get the hamstring, and then you sit out for 6 weeks, then you come back, and it's like starting over, because he's a rookie. So he's a first-year guy, but he's rookie playing wise. So He's doing a good job. He really is. He's getting better every week, and just look forward to seeing his maturation process.
Yeah, and just like we talked about having to have multiple punters, what that meant for Holding. As you mentioned, he got hurt, had to bring back Zach Trinner. How nice was that to at least have a guy who was so familiar here already to step in, and how did he handle that in his time while he came back?
No, he was great. Zach did a great job while he was here, and Dak was sitting there, and they were here in the offseason together, so, and then a little bit of last year, so there was a relationship there, but no, they were both fine. Dak just had to obviously rehab and do those types of things, but he was in the meetings all the time, and then Zach did a great job while he was here.
And as you talked about the kind of relationship between the kicker and holder, I know between the long snapper and punter, that's an incredibly important one as well. So what have you seen about the way that now, Deckers has handled that, of it being multiple guys back there, and what does Browning tend to want from him, and how does that relationship always build as well?
Well, more than anything, when you bring, and this is a testament to Jason in the front office, when you bring guys in, the character of the style of guy that you bring in is important. And Jack is a great kid who's very eager, and then Deck is the same way. Those two guys are really good for each other. They're young. They're both trying to figure it out, and they do a good job of communicating with each other. And they work together. I mean, obviously every day they worked with each other. So it's fun just kind of watching these guys kind of grow a little bit, and then having the ultimate professional in Chase McLaughlin for them to be able to watch every day.
Yeah.
So it's a new situation, but it's also it's an exciting situation too.
And I know, switching to return guys a little bit, how had Bucky done in his time as a return guy?
He's same thing he was doing as a running back.
Yeah.
He's done a really good job. Bucky is obviously dynamic with the ball in his hands, so whenever they would kick him the ball, it was he's fun to watch. Like he's done some really good things. We didn't get a lot of returns after the Atlanta game because of him and Sean and how they were returning. So we had a drought in there a little bit, and
they were just choosing to kick in ways to not let you do it.
They didn't. Yeah, people didn't want to kick the ball to us. So, and I could understand that because Bucky's very dynamic with the ball in his hand, to show Sean Tucker. So, but they had done a really good job, and we just gotta, we've kind of fallen to a drought a little bit. Bucky got the hip flexor or the hip pointer, and we got some new guys back there, so we just kind of gotta get back into the flow of it, and it's hard to do because you don't get a lot of game reps.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times people don't kick it deep, and then now they're starting to kick the hard squib on the ground. So just being able to handle those situations as they come, but then hopefully getting him back healthy and getting him back out there, so it help us with field position.
And then how do you guys make the decision of how much to use him in these situations when he has become such a huge part of the offense as well? I'm sure for you, there's always a tug of war game going on of,
right.
Sometimes some of your better guys get poached off the special teams unit just out of trying to keep them out of harm's way. So what are some of the ways that you guys try to make those decisions on who gets used and when and how much?
It's just week to week. It really is. And obviously we got to be smart in how we use them. You're just trying to win games. Like it's not this special teams, we can't use them here. Well, field position matters. And offensive coordinator is a whole lot better play caller outside of the 25-yard line in the 30 than he is inside of the 15. You know, so. But no, we try and be very aware of how we use personnel, independent on situations, and it's a constant juggle of personnel. So we're always very aware of situations as they come about, whether it be injury, whether it be this guy's down or this guy's up, and this guy's going to play another 20 more snaps today on offense. Okay, we got to pull him back a little bit here so we don't break him. Or then you got to, you know what I mean? So it's always just a management of reps, and we do it all the time. That's a part of the job, you know, just trying to make sure that we keep everybody fresh and we still maximize the roster from the top down and bottom up.
All right, we're going to take another break here on Buccaneers Total Access, brought to you by Advent Health. We're talking to Special Teams Coordinator Thomas McGaughey. We'll be right back. Welcome back into Buccaneers Total Access, brought to you by Advent Health. We're talking to Special Teams Coordinator Thomas McGaughey. So as we look at some of the coverage units and kick and punt return units and everything, tell me about Tavierre Thomas. Just feels like every time there's a big special teams play made, I feel like his is the name I'm hearing. What is he meant to the units and having a guy like that?
You know, TT's done a great job. He really has. He's, veteran guy that's been around. We call him, these guys in the business, professional special teams players. Like, he knows what his primary role is, and he's done a really good job. Like, he's made some big plays in big spots, block kicks, fumble recovery, calls fumbles. You know, he's done a lot. He's done a lot of things for us. So, and he's made a lot of tackles for us. So he's done a really nice job. He enjoys the game. The guys love being around him, and it's fun to watch him be able to play. And we brought him here just for this reason, to be able to make plays on teams, and to help on defense.
And who are some of the other guys on the units that maybe we don't even always know how well they're doing for you, or some of the guys that are really important to what you do?
They're all important, obviously. I think J.J. Russell, he's done a really good job. He's made a lot of tackles for us. Josh Hayes, Ryan Miller, he had 3 tackles last game. Keefe is a really big leader for us. We got a bunch of young guys in there. Obviously, Nelly has done a great job for us, and you're talking about a Swiss Army knife. This guy, you can put him anywhere, and he does a great job. Payne Durham's done a great job. So we got a bunch, Sean Tucker. You know, we got a bunch of guys that are really trying to grow their roles as football players and trying to show who they are. So we always talk about we want them to graduate from special teams, be able to play full-time on offense and defense, you know. So that's kind of the goal for a lot of these guys. But they're just figuring it out. You know, guys are just growing and playing hard and just trying to win games every week. That's it.
We're talking to Special Teams Coordinator Thomas McGaughey. All right, so now, new kickoff rules. That was like the story of the offseason, I felt like. Tell me your reaction to hearing about the new rule and all the things that went through your mind of what this was going to mean for you and your job and the team.
It's just change, and that's the only constant we have in our business is change, and life is change. So you got to be able to make those adjustments, and, regardless of how you feel about it, the rule is the rule. So you got to be able to make those adjustments, and, I think the league as a whole, we've done a good job of adapting the rule. I think it's been good for the game. I think there's some things that are going to be tweaked moving forward. We'll see what happens, but I think it's been good. I really do. I think it's a good play. I think obviously when you talk about player safety, you don't see any of the huge collisions like that you used to see back in the day. But I think it's been really good for the game.
How did it change even maybe the type of player you needed on your units, or I know how often special teams can be the deciding factor on some people making the roster even. Were there big shifts in your mind in who you were looking for based off of it?
It's funny. It's because basically it's just an offense for a defensive play. It really is. It's the first play of defense and it's the first play of offense, because you have to be able to create field position, and you have to have people that can block in space. As a kickoff return unit, obviously you still need the same type of returners in the back end, but a guy might need to be a little bit more sturdier, because if you miss a block on that front line, you can take a clean shot in the back end. So you want a guy with some size, little size to him. You don't want a smaller guy back there. And then conversely, kickoff coverage-wise, it's matchups. It's really based upon who they have on the other side. So if I got a little guy that's covering down at the 2, and they have a big guy on the other side, one or two things can happen. Either my little guy's just going to blow right by the big guy, or that big guy's going to get his hands on him and he ain't going to be able to get off the block. So it's just kind of that constant chess match of matchups and, okay, my really good players here at the 5, they want to double team them with a tight end and an outside linebacker. You get 2 big guys on a smaller guy in a quick little small amount of space. So, okay, do you put a bigger guy in there, or do you, it's just a constant juggling of personnel, and then just where are the matchups, So, okay, they got all their good guys over here. We're going to kick the ball over there. It's just, and it's constantly, that game of keep away, or, okay, we're going to overload you here into the boundary, and then conversely, you got to have a counter punch. So it's been fun. It's definitely different.
Yeah.
And it's
added a fun little wrinkle to your job.
Yeah, it's different, and each organization is different. Each coach is different. Each head coach is different. Some head coaches don't want to, even have to deal with it, kick the ball out of the back of the end zone. And then some teams want to return everything. They might bring it out 3 or 4 yards deep, you know. So it's just organizationally, it's different, different. Offensive head coach, defensive head coach, they might treat it a little differently. So
yeah. So I think about all the ways you have to scout other teams, prepare for other stuff, but specifically looking at maybe like your punter kicker, all of the factors that go into what they do that are more about the weather, the turf, the stadiums. As we go on a road trip this weekend, tell me what are all the things that they're keeping an eye on that influence what they do and how they learn about all of it.
Well, the beautiful thing about this road trip is that we're playing indoors.
Inside, yep.
And the funny thing about SoFi Stadium is that it's like they open it. It's open. So when the ball gets up in the rafters a little bit, like there's some, if it's windy outside.
There can be wind even though you're sort of inside,
So that's a funny part about that stadium. And it does affect a little bit that, depending on how windy it is outside, it'll affect the wind, just the draft a little bit in the stadium. But, our guys are like, say, for example, a punter, he'll come in and he'll just survey the scene, find his lines on the field, which way he wants to punt. There might be some signs in the stands where where he's looking to go. And then, he'll get on the hash, kind of walk up and down the field, do that stuff. And then the kicker will do the same thing. Check the hashes, look at the paint. Is the logo, or the hashes on the logo, what's the outline of the logo? All the different nuances, like just is the hash mark, is it raised, is it flat, is it just, it's just, it's a lot of little small different things that you look at.
That's so interesting.
When you get into the stadium, and it's not just come in and kick. You just gotta, visually, does it look funky in one area? Is there a jumbotron in one area? Is there not one in the other? In the end zone, just a bunch of little things that kind of go into that when you go in different stadiums.
Yeah, and there's so much to the mental side, right? That's as much as or more than a lot of other positions even. And it also feels like in some ways such a lonely job at times, especially for like the kicker. So as a coach of these guys that it is such a lonely and like mental thing, how do you approach that? How do you, especially maybe if they miss a big one or if they're about to have to kick a big one, things like that, what are the things that you work on with them, and then how you even try to approach, do I talk to them, do I not? I think that's always so interesting.
Yeah, I don't bother them.
It's a good strategy.
There's enough pressure that comes with the job. They understand the job. They know exactly what they need to do, how they need to do it. It's enough pressure that comes with that, so I'm not going to compound it by going over and saying something or doing something that's going to make them think about, like, their whole, like, these guys play the game in their head. Like, they'll go home and play the game in their head, and then their mental approach when something's good or something's bad, it's one snap and then clear it out. Good or bad, doesn't matter. So that's what they try and practice. And it's just, and each one of these guys have a different routine of, after something bad happens, what am I going to do? After something good happens, what am I going to do? And, the emotional maturity part, that's huge.
Yeah.
Just being able to, cross out the 60-yard field goal I just made, because it's not about this one, it's about the next one, because I already made it. All right, so now I got to focus on the next one. Or the 49-yard field goal that I missed.
Yeah.
You know, I can't worry about that one. It's about the next one. You know, so, and just, you know, understand, what did I do? How do I fix it? Make the correction, self-correct, and keep moving.
I also think more than maybe any other position, I feel like I hear about like superstitions being talked about with these specialty, like the immediate role. So that looks like you're not on team superstition. Is that fair?
No, I'm not a superstitious guy.
Yeah.
I'm kind of stitious, but not superstitious.
Yeah, just a little stitious.
Some guys are like that. Some guys got to wear the same wristband, or they make sure they tie their shoes a certain way, or, you know. But most of the guys that I've been around have been more process driven than superstition driven. Like you can freak yourself out with some of this stuff that could happen, but just follow their process and their routine, and once they do that, normally everything takes care of itself. What
is something that the lay person watching football does not appreciate about special teams that you wish they knew?
Interesting. Man, that's a good question.
Thank you.
You stumped me on that one.
I'm imagining you have so many of them in your head, because that's
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, you have the unit that people typically know the least about the plan.
I mean, it's those guys. They prepare a lot. They literally have to prepare 2 different game plans. So they got an offensive game plan, they got a defensive game plan, then they have the special teams game plan, and it's not easy to do. Like, sometimes these offenses and defenses, they give you so much. You're drinking out of a fire hose, you know, all the way through the week, and then you still got to know the punt protection. You got to know the kickoff returns. You got to know the punt returns. You got to know the kickoff scheme. You know, it's just, and we have a bunch of different calls and a lot of our stuff, so it's not an easy thing to do. But it's something that, you know, that has to be done. That's part of the job, you know, and it could be rough. So if you just start on offense, defense, you know the offensive calls, and defensive calls, but then when you add the special team stuff on top of it, and then all the situational football stuff that comes along with it, it could be cumbersome sometimes, especially for a young player.
Yeah.
So you get a kid like Tyke Smith, you know, he's playing nickel on defense, and then he was a personal protector on the punt team, and that's like being the quarterback of the punt team. Like, he has to know all the calls, he had to get us in and out of calls, he's making the calls, you know, so it's not easy to do.
Yeah.
You know, so that part of it might be one of the things I tell them that, you know, it's kind of
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's a lot of work that goes into it.
That makes sense. Well, Coach, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. We really appreciate it, and good luck this next week.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, that's going to do it for us on this edition of Buccaneers Total Access, brought to you by Advent Health. This is Buccaneers Radio.